I'm here to share 3 things every first-time homebuyer needs to know. Do not buy a home until you watch this whole video. I'm Darren. I'm a licensed real estate agent and licensed loan officer in California. I made this video because many of my clients and my friends and family said when they bought their first home, they didn't feel like their agent or lender was really looking out for them. And I want you to have confidence when you go and buy your first home. On top of that, I don't want you to feel like you got ripped off when you buy your first home. In this video, I'm not going to be going over the real estate process. I'm not going to be talking about the real estate contracts, the inspections, the escrow, all that good stuff. I'm just going to share 3 things you need to understand that will give you an unfair advantage when you're buying a home. And those 3 things are going to be seller's pricing strategy. Learn what's going on in your market. We're going to use a specific real estate term for that though. Months supply inventory. That will tell you what type of market you're in. And the third is days on market. Understanding and utilizing all 3 of these concepts together will help you define what a good deal is. I'll go into detail what all 3 of those concepts are, and then I'll share 2 examples of my clients, both first-time home buyers, who used these 3 things to win big in 2024. The first one is the seller's pricing strategy. When I say pricing, this just means this is the price the sellers are offering their home on the market. And so pricing is fairly predictable if you know what the right question to ask is. And what I mean by that is the seller only has 3 options in terms of pricing. Aspirational pricing. This means the seller has listed their home above recent homes nearby sold for. We'll just use an example of a home that's listed for $500,000, but their next door neighbor's house just sold for $450,000. So in this case, they're going above what a comparable recent home sold for. And we would say this is aspirational. This usually leaves room for negotiations. The second option the seller has is perceived market value. And this just means they are listing the home for around what their neighbor's home sold for. In that same example, the neighbor's home sold for $450,000. This home is also listed for sale for $450,000. And last but not least, the third option is event pricing. That means they're listing the home for below what their neighbor just sold for. So in this same example, the home just sold for $450,000. They're listing their home for $400,000. And you might be wondering, why would someone do that? Well, they are trying to create as much demand, as many people going through that home to get as many offers and create an auction style bidding war. So obviously, if you can understand the seller's pricing strategy, this will help you determine what type of competition you're going to be up against. Now, obviously, this one piece of information around the seller's pricing strategy isn't going to be enough to help you win. You're going to also need to know what's going on with your local market's supply and demand. And the real estate term for this is months supply inventory, also known as MSI. All MSI is the number of months it would take to sell all the houses on the market today if no new houses were added to the inventory. And so less than 6 months is a seller's market. 6 months is a balanced market, and above 6 months is going to be a buyer's market. So MSI is an indicator of supply and demand. Obviously, if you know what's going on with current supply and demand, that will help you figure out how to negotiate when you are purchasing your first home. So we know that if MSI is going up, we know the market is shifting in favor of buyers, and you can use that to your advantage. Now you understand 2 very important real estate concepts that some real estate agents don't even know. We're going to go over the third that can really give you an unfair advantage when you're buying your first home is days on market. This is also known as DOM. All DOM tells us is how many days a house is for sale before someone agrees to buy it or it's taken off the market. So you might be wondering, how do we use days on market to our advantage, or what does it really tell us? If you're looking at the average days on market for your zip code or your county or specific neighborhood and it's low, that means there's high demand or these homes have event style pricing. Lower days on market, 7 days or below, that's pretty fast. That means someone agreed to buy that home within 7 days after it's been listed. That's fast. Generally, indicator of high demand. Now, long days on market means typically low demand or aspirational pricing. Maybe something else is going on. Maybe the home needs a lot of work. Maybe the home isn't marketed properly. Maybe it has tenants, so they can't show the home. I advise my clients to look at properties with high days on market because that means there's going to be an opportunity to negotiate somewhere. There's a reason why that home hasn't sold, and that typically means there's going to be the opportunity. Now, on the other side, if you find your dream home and you know that the average is a low days on market, just be ready for some competition. That's happened to my other clients as well. They found their dream home. They knew that these metrics were trending towards a lot of demand, and they just said, let's lock it up. Let's get this home. It's my dream home. And they were ready for a little bit of competition, or they were ready to change their offer to get their offer accepted and win the home. That leads me right into this next piece of understanding all three of those concepts together will allow you to determine what is a good deal. And not only allow you to have a criteria for what's a good deal, but it's going to give you the ability to figure out how you want to move forward writing offers on specific homes. And I say this because you're in charge of your home purchase. It's going to be the place that you're living. So a good deal is actually defined by you, not just your agent or a family member and they're telling you, hey, this is a good deal. It's what you think. It's what you define as a good deal. I've had clients pay over list price and feel like they were getting a great deal because they got the dream home. It was a seller's market. It was a bidding war. And I've had many clients who have paid well below list price and they've gotten credits and other things. And they were also happy because they felt like they got a great deal. And let me give you an example of how you need to define what a good deal is. If I told you my clients just bought a home $100,000 below list price, you would probably assume what a great deal. But what I didn't tell you was that the home was listed $400,000 over market. So my clients actually probably overpaid $300,000 in terms of value. Is that a good deal? And on the other side of that, I could tell you, hey, my clients just paid $300,000 over list. You would say, wow, they got ripped off. But I left out the second part of that sentence. The home was listed for $1 million too low. So these people just made out with $700,000 in value. This is why it's really important to understand these metrics so you can define what looks like a good deal for you. If you're like me, you would hate getting ripped off. I would much rather just not get ripped off and overpay a little bit for a great product or something that I really want. If it's something super valuable and it's something that I'm gonna have for a long time, I'm fine paying a little bit extra for it. I think the pain of getting really ripped off is worse than the joy of getting like a good deal. Of course, everyone likes a good deal, but I think that fear of getting really ripped off is like way worse for me. Drop a comment and let me know what's more important to you, not getting ripped off or finding a good deal, or are they equally important? Understanding all three of these concepts and using them together will help you determine what is a good deal for you. And once you know what a good deal is for you, then you can come up with a good home buying strategy or game plan. If you need help coming up with a home buying game plan, feel free to email me directly. Now that we've gone through these three concepts, I'm going to share how two of my first time home buyer clients use these three things to win in 2024. So here's the address, 9392 Valerdo. This is all public. You can find it on the internet. So I'm happy to share it here. List price of the home, $1,150,000. I thought that pricing was somewhat aspirational. We ended up closing on the home for $1,060,000. The days on market for this property were 34 days. The average days on market was only 6 in this zip code. On top of that, when we looked at the MSI was 0.8. This is well below 6. Complete seller's market. Just to keep in mind, this zip code is a pretty small zip code. There's not a ton of supply in this specific zip code. My clients actually were well aware of these metrics. So the opportunity with this property, there was two things. We saw that it had a high days on market, and then the listing photos were actually pretty bad. So my clients didn't want to tour this home based on the photos. I actually went with another client and looked at this home and I said, hey, this home is in fantastic shape. It's been fully renovated. We should actually take a look at this. Although the photos don't do it justice, in person, it's pretty good. These clients knew that the days on market was high, inventory was low. They had actually submitted offers on about 7 other homes and they knew it was a seller's market because they didn't get those other 7. And just understand that's that can be completely normal depending on your local market. So my clients actually knew that if we could get this property for less than $1.1 million, it would be a good deal. We ended up offering $1,060,000. That offer got accepted. And we were actually surprised. The seller lived out of state. She did not want to sell to investors. And we thought they would actually counter closer to 1.1 million. That was kind of the value we thought, but they ended up accepting. So that was a huge win for us. Another big win on this property, this home was fully renovated and we actually went down to the city to verify permitted work and all of it was permitted. So because my clients understood that it was a seller's market, but this one had a high days on market and it was kind of poorly marketed, gave them the confidence to actually submit an offer pretty low and they ended up winning big. So this is just a Redfin estimate, but apparently, you know, the value of this home today is $1.21 million. So they've potentially made $150,000 of equity in less than a year. Now, that's not like a normal thing. You know, I am in Orange County, California, where the median home price is much higher than the national average. But in your opinion, do you think they got a good deal based off of the metrics that we're sharing? So now I'm going to go into another recent example, 120 Mencar in Irvine. This property is listed for $1,520,000. My clients ended up closing on this for $1,450,000. So we're going to take a look at the days on market for this one, 56 versus the average in the zip code 8 and the MSI 3.9. So still less than 6, meaning it's a seller's market. The crazy part about this property was that the house directly across from it in the cul-de-sac sold for $1,575,000 5 months before this home was listed. And so the opportunity that we saw here was obviously days on market was high. The other thing was that the property was tenant occupied when they listed it. So it was not necessarily the easiest property to show, and the listing agents weren't super responsive at first. Obviously, as the days on market went higher, those listing agents became more responsive. Once again, my clients were very well educated on the average days on market and the MSI. And so one of the things that gave us room for negotiation for this specific property was that when this property hit the market, it was a very strong seller's market. The MSI was below 1. By the time that we submitted our offer and the days on market was over 45, the MSI had changed. So we saw that the MSI was going up and the market was shifting from seller closer to balanced. Our initial offer was $1,430,000, so $90K below list, and the sellers countered. My clients were very much so ready to negotiate on this one because they knew the seller has a high days on market, MSI is shifting towards a balanced market, and yeah, that the property was tenant occupied, but by the time we opened escrow, the tenant actually moved out. You know, this was a huge win for my clients because they had multiple wins on this one. They got lucky with the tenant. The tenant was very organized, very clean, very helpful actually, and told them everything about the community. He had lived in this home for 5 years, treated it as his home. The home was built in 2019, so pretty much turnkey, right? Almost not brand new, but really no major issues. The carpet was a little bit bunched, but the tenant said that had been like that from the beginning. And, you know, so we got a credit to fix the carpet, and the property actually appraised for $1,515,000 in escrow. So they got $65,000 of instant equity in this scenario. If you didn't believe knowing those 3 things will help you get an unfair advantage when you're buying your first home, here are 2 recent examples. If you want more examples like this and you like hearing about success stories for first-time buyers, I have a PDF sharing a bunch of my past client wins. In that same PDF, it's going to cover everything that I went over in this video. Go ahead and use this link. As always, thanks for watching my videos, and I want you to feel confident when you're buying your first home.